Well, for what is next, I think the world has become quite predictable in many ways, with technology coming in and really helping us out in many ways of trying to know. Our election forecasts have been much better than they used to be in the 90s for sure. I'm very sure people will watch that. But where I'm starting from and what is the premise of taking up the cause of next? So with that, I set the context for next, and I look forward to contributions from the panel where we talk about what is next and how does spatialization, especially in areas like business economics, really helps industry, helps students, and helps academia as a whole. So I'll take it and pass it over to the esteemed group of participants here, esteemed group of speakers over here. So may I just have your first point of view on what do you think is really next for the industry, where academia can come and use some of these levers to fill in the gaps?
I really appreciated what Dr. Kamaljit said about the desire to be next and the really great aspirations for how we're going to prepare our students to deliver value in their organizations on day one. I was given a slightly different topic to talk about, and now it's changed, so let me make it up as I go on the fly. But I had a couple of points. First of all, I'm a graduate of Thunderbird School of Global Management. Some of you may know that's the #1 program in the world for international management, for global management. And we are always trying to be on the cutting edge of pedagogy and curriculum. We surveyed the employers in US and around the world and found out that there's a strong desire for greater quant skills, greater mathematical skills. So this says that your MBE is probably pointed in the right direction. As the quotes gave you, I need somebody who's really good at one thing, somebody who can crunch the numbers and come up with good decision making. So kudos for you for understanding that that is a serious market need, not just generalist MBA, but people who are good at crunching the numbers. And that's using math to solve problems. However, I want to encourage you in two areas where I think you can continue to grow. I compared the syllabus on your webpage for your new MBA program, and which you saw there, with the syllabus at DU, which Professor Prasad began. And I noticed a key difference. They have a much stronger focus on econometrics. Now, I'm not saying you have to have it, but when I saw your syllabus, I said, this is noble, this is good, but in my judgment, it doesn't look very different from a traditional MBA. So in order to make it more than just a cosmetic change and getting it into an MBE instead of an MBA, you want to make sure that the students really focus on mathematical problem solving. And then the other question to Kamaljit's main point is what comes next? Well, you've asked the right guy, because I started an initiative to make higher education in India #1 in the world. I don't care if you think it's impossible. I don't care if I think it's impossible. That's the goal. And for me, the way we get there is the same direction you're moving. We move from a teacher-centered pedagogy to a student-centered. And what we do is we start bringing in those critical thinking skills. We start bringing in the practical experience by allowing the student to become the actor. If we fall back on our traditional method of being the lecturer, of being the demonstration person, we are the actor. And the simple fact is, the neurobiology supports this. People, especially people who have attained physical adulthood, even if you don't concede to them cultural adulthood, physical adulthood, have surpassed the age of 18 or 19 or 20 or 21, they learn better by doing. We have this nonsensical idea in many institutions that people are going to learn business by sitting in lectures for 7 hours a day. It's total rot, total nonsense, and yet the tradition persists. So what's coming next? We are going to become number one when more schools like IMS get the idea that we actually have to develop the skills of our students by giving them things to do, task-based, activity-based learning, focused on, in an MBA program, quantitative skills and relevant business knowledge and experience so they emerge on day zero ready to add value. Thank you.
Sounds good. And also, David, from industry standpoint, when we are looking at a person to be promoted from one year to another year, and you're really setting up some really steep responsibility areas for him. You want him to really grow within the organizations. And you have 5 guys, and you have to choose, the ones which are going to be possibly going to meet that steep criteria that you're going to set. What are the 2 or 3 things that you really look for when you are going to really pick the person who's going to meet your objective, which are business objectives?
Definitely is the is entrepreneurial skills. Right. The world is not being run by large corporations. We know that, right? Facebook was never a large corporation. Google was never a large company. So I think entrepreneurial thing is going to be very, very big. David talked of mathematics, and which is now more fashionably called data and data analytics, right? But basic is the same, what he said. So we have to understand what mathematics to apply is later. I think very, very critical what mathematics you apply, and I'm really, really happy that he introduced that thing. So they have to know sources of data. They have to be very imaginative. See, the kind of data is being generated every second is like, trillion gigabytes kind of thing, right? The kind of data which has got generated in the past 1 year never got generated in the 20 years before that. That's the kind of quantum of data we are generating. Every call that we are making, every SMS that we are sending, every purchase that we are making is data. What time we place what order, what time I book my holidays. You already have people who tell you that Tuesday the rates are the lowest on Expedia. Monday it's this. Most of it is guesswork. Only Expedia knows, or maybe David can guess better than all of us here because he has a keener mathematical mind. So I would put my bet on a guy who's not shy of numbers. Anyone who says, but I didn't study maths. At one time it became fashionable that I did commerce without maths. I'm not good with maths. I seriously think he's an idiot. In today's world, if you I talk business, right? So I would really, and to me that looks like the best bet. Teach them economics, teach them numbers, tell them, make them fall in love with mathematics, make them fall in love with data, make them fall in love with, of course, the other aspects being what they are, understand the consumer. Remember, companies don't own brands, consumers own brands today. Brands are not owned by companies. Consumers decide this brand to be that, and it becomes that. If it's cool, it's cool. You don't decide, I'm going to have my brand to be cool. This is my brand definition. Who cares? If the customer doesn't find it that, customer doesn't make it that on the social media or any other channel or any whichever way, through conversation, through whatever, you can do all your brand management, you can do all your marketing strategy, it'll go for a 6, right? So we know how 3, 4, 5 of these guys, Clear a Trip, Make My Trip, change the way people travel, change the way people take buses, change the way people meet people, change the way people get married, change the way people do their honeymoons. They're not small things. Don't take it as travel industry. Remember, travel is to do with how people get married, where they go to the honeymoon, right? And how they talk to each other. So these briefly are 2, 3 points that we are looking at. So we're really not, revenue generation, all those things are hygiene now. That's okay. We obviously want the guy to bring in money. We obviously see economic benefit of the guy. But over and above this, we are looking at this new or the next kind of business economics, which is little different from the business economics that we have ever known. Yeah, that these are the number of, if these are the people who have, if this is the GDP, this is the money people spend on food, then they'll buy my burger. No. They'll buy a burger from a person who has certain kind of attitude. They'll buy a burger from a person who does burger for poets, who does burger for scientists, or some such thing, They are communities. So those poets buy their burger or their meal from a certain person, right? So if you go to Yale, you'll find certain kind of cafeterias promoted by certain courses, and certain other kind of cafeterias promoted by certain other kind of courses. So you find that engineers go to this place, and geeks go to this place, techies go to this place, preppies go to this place. The world is being run by attitudes and not by what you sell, what you don't sell.
I'll do very well said, Sunil. I think what you're saying is that you're looking for not only quantitative skills, you're seeing this element of positivity, this element of optimization or maximization which people do, apart from some of the other things that you said.
What are we looking for? We are looking for people that are responsive people. And we are looking for people that are responsive people, and in the time next, we would be looking as customers to organizations that will be responsive organizations. So as you prepare your people, you want to prepare people that are responsive people. And these responsive people should be positive people, as Sunil says. And these people, of course, you are going to give them a modicum of skills. And that is what will make them somewhat more employable. Hopefully, given the idea of responsiveness, given the idea of this can-do attitude, we hopefully would hope that the people that we prepare for the next would be competent people. So if I'm looking at 4 or 5 people, that one of them has to be promoted next to the next higher position, I look for responsiveness, I would look for can-do attitude, the positivity, I would look for communication, certainly. That's a given, minimal, that people would have to be very communicative. They should be able to orally and written communication, should be experts. I think wonderfully interesting and relevant points. Anybody would do.
When you are going to make some decisions, you have many alternatives. And you have to weigh each alternative. And you have to think over which will be the best alternative that I have to go. It applies whether I am to invest my money, then where I have to invest my money. I can put in the fixed deposit, I can put it into some business, some small business, some big business, I can buy shares, I can buy debentures, I can do a lot of things I can think of. I have hundreds of alternatives, even for a single investment business like that. So how to maximize? And there we come to that point that if we have a portfolio, we would like to maximize that portfolio. And when we think in this term that how to maximize that portfolio, here comes weighing the pros and cons of different decisions. You might have heard about the decision tree in management. So there are several branches going here and there, and you have to pick up and you have to see how you can get the best out of any decision. That was the question 40 years back also. And the UGC committee was deliberating what next. You see, the world was changing. Privatization movement had started. And in England, the country which had been known for nationalization, they were going for denationalization, for privatization and so on. The world was opening for investment and things of this nature. 70s, 80s, drastic changes were taking in the world. And it was at that time that University of Delhi decided that we must take up some course which is going to be the next, where we prepare such people who can really deliver in government, in private services, in business, in different areas of, in different undertakings and so on. And there came the provision of the UGC that let's start a course in business economics.
So in terms of the students coming out of MBA courses, where do you think do they fit more into academia or do they fit better into industry? Or or can they do a bridging between academia as well as business economics? I mean, into industry.
It has not been that they have to go to academia as such.
Right.
They can go to academia also, those who are research minded.
Right.
And quite a few of them have made their mark. Quite a few of our students have been admitted in Harvard and Oxford and many other universities where they have done excellent research work and they have been placed very well. But majority students have been going to industry. And from the very first or second batch, we were able to place one student, Swan Lata, in World Bank. In the very next batch, I remember there was a student who was placed into International Monetary Fund and then in Asian Development Bank and things of this nature. So it was not only that we were able to place students in India, we were able to place abroad on very senior positions, and some of these boys and girls, they have done pretty well.
So you mean to say that the courses like MBE have a lot of potential for international positioning also in very reputed organizations?
I mean, topmost financial institutions of this country,
Yes, which
topmost
MBE,
industries in
NCI
this country. So our focus have been basically to have as much interaction with the world of industry, trade, commerce, financial houses as possible. Not only just teaching. And the one major thing that I suppose we have always emphasized was that most of the programs in the department itself, I mean, what should be the type of seminar we have to go for, whom to call and how to organize and where to organize. I mean, most of the conventions have been organized all the time in 5-star hotels. And we have said to students that you have to finance it, you have to do everything. You have to invite people, you have to go and persuade them, bring them, present papers, organize everything. The whole lot of thing was being done by the students themselves. We as teachers were just only to invite them. The responsibility was of students right from making proposals to taking things and getting it done till the last moment. It was they who have been made responsible.
So fantastic points being made by Dr. Prasad here, where we obviously look at entrepreneurship being set within the schools itself, and then, you know, making the curriculum very open wherein you have industry participation happening, and then, you know,
Yeah, that's
students
key.
going
That is
over
very key.
and really leading it over. So any international examples where we see that we have, you know, courses which are very quantitative, people coming out are nerds, but they're still very well accepted within the industry? Because, you know, many times there is this stigma within the students that if I do something very technical, I'm not very cool, I'm very nerdy, you know, I'm not, you know, part of the larger group which is there. So how do you see, David, how do you see, you know, Shyam, on this?
Well, I'm a strong believer in individuation. If you look at different parenting styles according to the Myers-Briggs personality typing system, I'm a rationalist, an NT, and we tend to be individuators. We want each child to go his or her own way. And I feel the same about business grads. There are people who are temperamentally suited to doing quantitative work, to being numbers crunchers, bean counters. You know the old joke, what is an actuary?
Oh, yeah.
An actuary is somebody who aspired to be an accountant, but he didn't have the personality for it. So there are people who are going to excel in those areas, and then there are other people who are less oriented toward detail work. I'm one of them, even though I have a mathematical mind. I don't want to be crunching numbers all day. One of the hardest jobs I ever did was night auditor at a hotel when I was in college. So it was just, you know, horrible. So my temperament is different. There are places in business for students of both temperaments. So it's not that one is better than the other. But I'll give one example from a Fortune 500 company where I was last in service before going back out on my own for good. We had a young management intern, not an intern, a young management graduate who joined us, and he was assigned to do a project on risk management. And to do risk management, you really have to be strong quantitatively. You have to understand how to analyze numbers and probabilities and percentages and weighting. So this young fellow who had studied at a pretty good American school just got that assignment. And because he carried out that assignment so well, he had gone through the management rotation, and that's just where he ended up glomming on and sticking on. he became one of the leading management prospects in the whole company just because of his excellence. So the door is open, even if you think you're more of a geek or if you're more of a, a quant rather than a marketing person, that's fine. We need both. And there are plenty of good opportunities for those who do well with numbers.
But then I also firmly believe that where we come in as managements of the institutions and as faculty members is when we bring out the best in the candidates. मतलब अगर सारे 98 percentile है तो उनको और ऊपर ले जाने में कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है. But if you take somebody and bring him from X level to a wonderfully high level. For about 12 years I headed the MBA program at Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Kasturba Gandhi Marg. And in the final interview selection, sir, it's something that I can now say because I'm no longer there. The final interview would take place after the GD in my room with Professor Pillai, who still heads the Sardar Patel College of Commerce. At the end of this interview, he would turn to me and he'd say, Shyam, she's the daughter of a CPWD clerk. She is stammering, she cannot talk good English. You take her in your 3-year MBA equivalent program, and if you can do something, you would have dented her life for the good. If you don't take her, you are the cheapest MBA program in Delhi NCR, and no one else. I don't think that she can afford anything. And you know what? We would make some of those decisions of taking that person. And at the end of it all, 3 years go by, the final MBA thesis, the final viva voce would take place again in my room. Always again with Professor Pillai by my side and an external. And we would see this same person talking so fluently. And we would say, my God, we must have done something right in these 3 years, that when she came, you remember how she was and how she is. So that is a satisfaction of its own. But he is very right. Patra sahi hona bhi zaruri hai if we want to strive towards excellence. Another aspect, sir, if I may point out, 2 aspects, 2 things. The industry expects the managers that they hire to come to them already trained. Kamaljeet Singh ji hinted at that. So the industry expects, hey, they should come to us, hit the ground running. So you must be very careful to have trained them so well. And one of the recipes is what Lalan Prasad ji says, a lot of industry interactions. We had 42 seminars, industry, bring in 100 CEOs. Now that gives that aura and that interaction where that industry then tells you and tells them. Also, one last point there, the student expectations are increasing exponentially. I saw that 16 lakh and more jobs, and the students are expecting so much more. You need to cater to their expectations. The industry is expecting so much more. You need to take account of that. And so you have to build in your capabilities to make sure that you pummel them enough, you grill them enough, so that when they come out, bilkul khara sona ho, and they are ready to hit the ground kind of running. And I think that industry interaction bit that you talked about, sir, is a wonderful recipe that will shape this material in the right direction.
I would like to thank the panel for a fantastic discussion, and I think it has left a lot of thoughts in front of, in the minds of all students, every participant here. Thank you so very much.